Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and today, episode 49, I'm talking to you about resolutions or realizations. Now, at the time of recording this, it's mid-February, a time when all New Year's resolutions have definitely gone under the carpet for many of us, including myself. So I actually want to share with you my new take on resolutions and why. Throughout history, throughout our own personal histories, we've made resolutions at the start of the year. You say to yourself, I'm going to lose 20 kilos this year, or I'm going to get my business to 6 figures, or I'm going to walk every day. We make these with the best of intentions. But as we've all heard many a time, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So why do resolutions not work? Resolutions don't work. Yes, there it is, a bold statement, but I'm going to explain why. When we make them, it's normally at a time of euphoria. We're celebrating the end of one year, the start of a new year. We're often with friends or with family. We feel that sense of emotional beginnings and emotional endings. We tie up the old year and we dismiss anything that wasn't perfect. And we make resolutions to be more perfect or to strive more for perfection in the coming year. Now, whilst that all sounds pretty good, we put so much pressure on ourselves. Making a resolution is not making a plan. It's making a statement. And it's a statement that foreshadows and overbears us for the next 12 months. And then we get to the end of the year and we look back and we become deflated, depressed, despondent, because we didn't achieve that lofty goal. In fact, it's not even a goal. A resolution is an idea of perfection. It's an idea of where our lives have to be. And does it mean that if we don't get to there, that we're a failure? Let's look at losing weight first. It's a common New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose 20 kilos this year. Now, that's all fine and good to make a bold statement that you're going to lose 20 kilos. But if you lose 5, have you failed? In fact, if you lose 1, have you failed? You are still 1 kilo lighter than you were the year before. Are you taking into account your health? Maybe your health has accelerated to the point where you feel indestructible, but when you look in a photo, the reflection, the image, just doesn't match up. Now, I know that's actually happened to me. This morning, before I came on air, I looked at a photo from a gathering from a couple of nights ago. Now, I feel fantastic. I am the healthiest I think I've ever been in my life. The systems of my body are working perfectly in sync with each other. My chronic illnesses have gone. Any sign of ill health has gone, except for my weight. Now, I know that weight carries toxins. I know that my fat on my body is a storage center for those toxins. And I'm combating that from the inside out. But does it mean I failed because I'm heavier than I would like to be? I'm heavier than I said last year that I would be. No. Because when I made that resolution, I had multiple autoimmune diseases. I was feeling unwell, no energy, tired all the time, chronically fatigued, and I was so focused on what I look like. Now that I'm focused on what's going on inside of me, my meat suit is just that, a meat suit. So does it mean that I'm a failure if I'm not 20 kilos lighter by the end of the year? No, it doesn't. I have abundant energy. I have a family that love and adore me, and we love to spend time together. I'm energetically playing sports with my kids, with my grown kids, and keeping up. I walk 8Ks every day. I am relatively fit. I'm very strong. Most of all, I'm healthy and happy. Just because my meat suit doesn't tell me on the scales that I've met that resolution does not mean I'm a failure. And here comes the revelation. So we make resolutions, lofty, grand, smack you in the face big goals. But do we make them smart goals? And we've talked on this podcast before about smart goals, what they are, that they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, achievable. Are your resolutions achievable? They need to be realistic. What is going on around you? What are the variables in play? And they need to be tangible and time-based. Now, resolutions in themselves are a time-based goal, but are they all the other parts that make up a SMART goal? And this is why resolutions don't work. They are ideals. They are things that we put upon ourselves without any thought to what damage they can do. The damage a resolution can do. Let's have a look at that. There's the emotional trauma that comes from a resolution. The emotional trauma of what happens if you don't get there? What happens if the resolution doesn't happen the way that you envisage it to happen when you've got that glass of champagne in your hand? There's the self-judgment that comes with, I haven't achieved my resolution. Does that make you a failure? No, but you are going to judge yourself. Is that going to make you feel good? Probably not. Then there's the fact that we often say our resolutions with other people around. So we're now being kept accountable to some extent, even if only through social proof. We're being kept accountable to something that was unachievable, unrealistic, not satisfying, but quite emotionally destroying. Why would we do that? Why would we keep ourselves accountable through social proof or even through our own eyes to something that does so much damage? Now, while we're talking about New Year's, I want to share with you something my kids and I have done with each other for many years. Before Christmas, they need to get a garbage bag. Now that's upgraded to a box, now they're a bit older. And they need to put things in the box or the bag that they haven't really been excited about playing with or using for maybe the past 6 months. Now, this means that new things they got last year, they have 6 months to use it because it's generally about the time they will, and then it gets put aside and forgotten like everything else. Now, in order to get new things, my kids need to give up old things. Why? Because there are so many people out there that don't have things. And they are just things. And I tell my kids that. These are just material things. They are not your self-value, your self-worth. They don't make up who you are. They are just things. So they'll give up some of these things in order to get new things. Now, that's before the holiday season. Then we get to New Year's. The day of New Year's, when I wake them up in the morning, I say, tonight's New Year's Eve. I want you to start thinking about 3 things you are grateful for from this year, 3 things you would like to achieve next year, and 3 ways you are going to make that happen. Are we setting resolutions? No. What we're doing is we're being grateful, we're pulling out the positives from the old year before it fades into the distance. We're summoning 3 things that we want for the next year. Not specifically goals, just 3 things that we want. And we're looking at how both of those components make us feel about things. Now, New Year's of 2020 was very interesting. After a year of some disappointments, after a year of people around us being scared and living in fear, I was a bit concerned what my now adult children would have to say for the New Year's breakdown. And we call it a New Year's breakdown. We're breaking down what happened the year before, and we're breaking down into its components what we would like to have happen in the coming year. Not resolutions. We are revealing what we want to achieve, how we want it to make us feel for the next year. So our revelations. So number 1 son, well, he's not very grateful for things that happened last year. But he could still find some good. We moved to a fantastic house, so he was happy for that. Our elderly cats are still with us, so he was pretty grateful for that. And togetherness doesn't mean much to him. Kind of lives in his own little world, but he was grateful that the 3 of us were still together because he knows that the family bond is so important. 3 things he wanted to achieve for this year. He wanted to finish uni. Well, he's done that. It's February, he's done that. He wanted to get a job, so he's looking for a job. If he doesn't get one, does it mean he's failed? No. The job that he wants is quite specific. The skill set that he has for that job is quite specific. So if he doesn't get one, it's not a huge drama. as long as he attempts to get one, sends out the resumes, does the interviews, spends the year upgrading his skills and solidifying his skills, he's still working towards the revelation that he wants to get to. Of course, he wanted the cats to live forever, so, he still wants them alive at the end of the year. So his revelations, even though he struggles on New Year's to think of them, he still came up with them. And number 2, son. 3 things he was grateful for the past year of 2020. He finished school, so he was happy with that. I'm alive and healthy, so he was very happy with that. And that we'd moved into the house. He was ecstatic about that. 3 things he wanted for this year. He wants to get his license. He wants to get a girlfriend. I don't know about that one. I don't know if that one will happen. We'll see. And he wants to get into the workforce. Well, the license is happening. He's got his learners. He's on the road. He's doing things he needs to do to get towards that. The girlfriend, he's becoming a lot more social, so he's being exposed to a lot more girls that he knows. So, who knows? That might happen. And the job, yes, that will happen this year. How will he feel about it? He'll feel independent. He'll feel valued. He'll feel established, was one of his words. Because once you've got a license, you are fairly established as an adult. And will he get there? Sure. Like I said, maybe not the girlfriend. That's out of his control. But he will do everything he can to make that revelation happen. Now, they're not resolutions for him. They are not disappointing, lofty goals. They are realistic and tangible. They are things that, as long as he works towards them, they'll happen. And this is why we don't make New Year's resolutions, and why you shouldn't either. So why are resolutions so dangerous? Why am I so anti-New Year's resolution? And why am I telling you about it now? Well, the simple fact is you're putting so much pressure on yourself. And when you do that, you create a toxic imbalance in your body. Now, when we put ourselves under so much pressure, what we actually do is we release cortisol. And I've spoken to you many times about cortisol in the podcast. In fact, in episode 40, I talked about stress relief, all to do with cortisol. In episode 43, the whole episode was about cortisol, so go back and listen to those. But basically, when we release cortisol, it's our stress hormone. The things that happen inside us after a flood of cortisol can cause irreparable damage. Stress is the number one driver of disease. The emotional stress that you put yourself under making a resolution begins a disease response, a stress response, leading to a disease or a stress process. Now that process is what is going to give you chronic fatigue. It's what's going to give you, or not so much give you, but boost depression. It's going to trigger issues in your gut, which will lead to leaky gut, which will lead to an immune response, which will lead to you getting sick with things. Now, in a year like we've just had, do you want to be living in a stress response? Do you want to be launching an immune response to the stress? Do you want to be getting sick with things? I don't think so. So why make a New Year's resolution that begins that stress and disease process? And it begins those because these goals are unachievable. So what are your New Year's revelations for this year? Well, for me, my revelations for this year were to remain grounded every day. Now, what does that mean? I can have lofty goals. I certainly can. But I need to remain grounded and ask myself at the end of the day, every day, what did I do today to get me where I want to be? I have a gratitude journal. I write in it every evening before bed. Things that I am grateful for. It could be I recorded this podcast for you. It could be I did some more study in my mentorship today. It could be I came across 3 new clients and did discovery calls with them, strategy calls, and learnt so much more about how much the human body can survive. My revelations for the day may be as simple as I cleaned my desk. It's not a huge lofty goal that I set out for in the morning. It's something that I did with thought, with purpose, with a reason. I do try and make sure my desk is clear. And as I'm talking to you right now, I'm looking down my desk. There's a few piles of papers where they shouldn't be. I kind of yesterday got halfway through putting things where they should be and then got distracted. So what I should do today to make sure that my desk is as functional as possible is put things where they need to be. And that's a minor revelation that happens by casting my eyes across my desk. When I get it done, I'll write it in my gratitude journal tonight. Cleared up my desk, filed all my papers away, actioned the client files that are sitting on my desk. What will that do for me? Well, it'll give me a sense of purpose, a sense of completion. It will visually stimulate me that there's a clean desk ready for new clients to put their files on the desk, ready for new ideas to write down. I'll be grateful that I achieved something in the day. And what that will do is it will stimulate my happy hormones. I will sleep better. I will feel better. It's not a goal. I didn't set the goal that by the end of today my desk should be clear. That means nothing. That invokes nothing. And if I do that and my desk isn't clear at the end of the day, that will start that stress and disease response. Triggering an immune process. I may end up getting a cold because I couldn't clear my desk. I may say something like, you couldn't even clear your desk. When you say things like that to yourself, you're triggering that response again, that stress response, those toxic thoughts about yourself, and they just fester and can make you very sick. Should you set a list of to-do items for the day? Sure. Have at it. Write 5 or 6 of them down. Today I'm going to try and get my desk clear. Not today I will clear my desk. You've got to allow for things happening. You may end up getting really busy and not have time to do it. And then in your gratitude journal, you say, I'm really grateful that today I got really busy and my focus was taken away from clearing my desk, and now I have the opportunity to focus on doing that tomorrow. And the same thing applies at the end of the year. Don't set up these resolutions that you are bound to fail at, that have so many moving parts and components, so many variables that affect them. Have revelations about the year before and reveal what you want for the year ahead. But make sure that you have allowances in there for those variables. So what were my revelations for this year? Well, first of all, my gratitude from the year before was moving, was getting this podcast on air. That was a huge thing. It was 3 years in the making. Didn't mean I'd failed, because all that time I'd been planning what I would talk to you about. I'd been planning the structure of the episodes. I'd been putting feelers out to people. Hey, when I get my podcast on air, will you come on it? I reached out and I got my editor, my podcast manager. I set all the moving parts in motion. I just hadn't wrapped it all up and actually gotten it on air yet. Not a failure. So last year, yes, I was grateful to move house. I was grateful for my podcast. I was grateful to work with a group of practitioners that think along the same lines as me. And I was grateful for my mentorship. There was a lot to be grateful for. My revelations for this year: to continue bringing you quality podcasts every week, to start boosting the ranking of this podcast. Now we're in February, and I'm doing pretty well with both of those so far. I wanted to find some stability, so I wanted to make sure that we have this house for another year. And I'm well on the way to either nailing that down or at least knowing what will happen in that area. That's completely out of my control. But I've done everything I can to reveal the reality. Now, this is very interesting. Something may be completely out of your control. I rent. It is completely out of my control whether the landlord says, yeah, you can have another year. This week that was kind of stressing me. And I got a little cold because I was so stressed. And then I realized I've done everything I can to make that happen. The gardens are very well attended. The grass is always mowed. The garden out the front is always weed-free, very well looked after, pruned when it needs to be. The driveway is always clean. The house is always clean. So I've done everything I can to make it happen. If it doesn't happen, it's not a failure, because it was out of my control. So something else I wanted to do for this year, something else I revealed to myself in my revelation, was to drop some more weight. Now, this is a big one. And it's a big one because it's one many of us have. I didn't say I was going to lose weight this year, because I don't want to lose weight. Because if I lose it, I will also find it. And goodness knows that's happened year after year. So I wanted to drop some weight this year. Now we're in February. Yes, that's happened. Probably not to the extent that I would like it to happen, but it's only February. As I said, I looked at a photo of myself today and I went, that meat suit is still pretty big. Did I say I was fat? No. I acknowledged it as my outer layer was not reflecting the work I've done on the inner layers yet. So when you have these revelations, go easy on yourself. As long as you are doing everything you can to get to the point where you can go, I achieved this, then you're doing well. Stop beating yourself up about things. There's plenty of other people out in society that want to do that for you. Trust me. There are plenty of people that want to judge you for your weight. You don't need to be one of them. As long as you are doing everything you can to be healthy, to be the best version of you that you can be, it doesn't matter what the big lofty goal is. It's the journey. It's the process. It's not the destination that you end up at. So if I want to drop 20 kilos this year and I only drop 5 or 10 or 3, am I failing? I'm still lighter than I was at the start of the year. Now you're probably seeing where I'm going with this. I want you to be grateful. I want you to be grateful every day for the things that you do achieve. Acknowledge them every day. Get that little notebook out beside your bed. Write the date. And then write, today I am grateful for dropping 1 kilo, wearing pants that felt too tight last week, eating a well-balanced diet today, feeling great about myself, walking barefoot in the dirt, in the sunshine, and enjoying what was around me. These are all things that you can be grateful for. And that will lead you to your revelation. And no longer will you need to make New Year's resolutions. Now I know I've kind of rabbited on about this today, but it's so important that you understand every step forward that you take is a step forward. No matter how big, no matter how small, it is still a step forward. And you need to appreciate that and thank yourself for that, be grateful for that. And at the start of the year, or the end of the year, at that time of change, that time of turmoil, stop making New Year's resolutions. Make revelations for the coming year. Revelations for the year ending. And have some gratitude for the things you have achieved. Because positive steps create positive steps. Now this was your episode 49 of A Magical Life. In episode 50 we have Kirsten Horner coming to talk about freedom from emotional pain. A fantastic episode. I can't wait to bring it to you. For now, go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.